Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Halloween edition of Lurking for Legends. We are having a great time over here. We are all dressed up, if you can see, like what we're wearing. We're just gonna have a great time tonight. We have the perfect author here with us tonight as well. So, as always, welcome to Lurking for Legends. We are a live video cast where we talk with people from all walks of the publishing industry. And I'm Christy Stratus, the author of the Dark Victoriana collection, which is the perfect time to read. And my awesome co-host is Richard H. Stevens, and he's the author of the epic fantasy series. Get ready, there's a lot of them because he is so prolific. The Legends of the Lurker, Bainbridge companion novels, Soulforge Saga, and the High Cliff Guardians. Lots more to come. So Lurking for Legends is a live interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to chime in with any questions you may have for our guests or any comments that you want to leave for us. And we love putting them up for you guys. So tonight we are excited to have, like I said, the perfect guest, dark fantasy author and paranormal author, Laura Daleo. Welcome, Laura. It's great to have you.
Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Perfect timing.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. Yeah, it's the perfect time to have you because, like, you tell us about yourself. Just as a sneak peek, you have a vampire series, so it's especially perfect. And you dark stuff. So anyway, yeah, you go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I have actually been writing for many, many years. Just didn't really do anything publishing wise until I started looking around 2011, but I actually wrote and copyrighted the Immortal Kiss series in 1996. So it was like way before any of the vampire people, kind of got all their books like Twilight and things like that. So I was probably missed that boat when not trying to do anything with it, but I just wrote it all because I loved Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles, loved her to death, and I couldn't wait for her next book, so I started my own series, and I just wrote it and put it in a chest, and then when I was moving, when I found it, and I started reading it, I'm like, wow, I should really do something with it. So then I started reaching out to publishers, and I got two publishers that were interested, and I went with one, and I published this first book and the second book through them, and then I really wanted more creative freedom, so I went out on my own, and I actually started my own publishing company as well, which I ended up dissolving just this year, just because, oh my gosh, I don't know if anyone lives in California, but the state of California charges you for an LLC is ridiculous. So now I just publish under my name, but I have 3 books in the series, and then I have a standalone vampire book. So in the series, I have Immortal Kiss, Bound by Blood, and The Vampire Within, and then I have a standalone, The Vow, and then I have a dark fantasy standalone called The Soul Collector, and then I just published a sci-fi fantasy, The Doll. But I've been, I majored in fine arts, creative brain, can't, never turn it off, and then I also rescue basset hounds. I have 4 of them at home, and my day job really isn't very fun. It's very boring. I'm an accounts payable manager, and I pay all the bills for a company. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm a Starbucks fan. Love Starbucks coffee.
Nice. Accounts payable isn't boring. You get to spend all the money, right?
Yeah. It isn't as glamorous. I mean, you have vendors that are, constantly, where's my money? So you always get that kind of, thing to deal with. But I have a staff underneath me that deals with a lot of that. I only have to get involved if it gets, people get irate or something like that. But I work for a large company, so they're, pretty good with paying all their bills on time.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So since we are here, on the Halloween episode, let's start with your vampire series.
Okay.
I would love to hear more in depth about that. I know that you were inspired by other people writing vampire things. I believe think I saw some. I hope I'm right. Interview with a Vampire was one of your inspirations. Am I right?
Yes, Anne Rice. So the first I read the Interview with the Vampire. Oh my gosh, just fell in love with Lestat. Perfect vampire. I also like Dracula too, but Lestat's like my favorite. And then Spike from Buffy. So, but I really like that Anne Rice's style of writing. So that really inspired me. And so I created a series where I used an Egyptian myth where how the original vampires were created. And this human girl is kind of in the middle of it, doesn't really know anything, realize it. And then later on in life, she finds out about why she's tied to this particular vampire. And and then it kind of just goes on with the series with the first book is usually about her and how she's tied to this one god. And then the second book is kind of like goes more into detail about the gods, vampire gods. And then the third book is more, again, there's a teenager that, inadvertently gets thrown into all this mess and how he has to deal with the issues that arise from a vampire kind of like using his body, so to speak, as a host for his soul. So that's kind of, and there's I've left it open where I can write a couple more characters into the series if I choose to.
Nice. Okay, so this is not necessarily a finished series.
I haven't, it kind of, it isn't finished because I can, like I said, go ahead and continue it if I, once I get done with some other books that I'm working on. But I have gotten a lot of people that want to hear more about certain characters. So I plan to do one of, about one of the characters that I keep getting asked about, what do we want to hear more about him. We want to hear more about him. So I'm definitely probably want to do that. And then I have, so the vampire gods, when they, were created, they didn't know how to control their hunger. So they were just killing off humans left and right. And so they decided to create a council that would control them. So those were called the Old Ones, and they made all the laws and rules for vampirism. And a lot of people are asking about a book about how the Old Ones were created. So that could be a book as well.
That's really cool. I was just looking at your covers online there, and a lot of them look like they're models that appeared on the cover. Is that something that you have gone ahead and got the models for the covers, or is that something your cover artist has done for you?
So I, having a fine arts background and majoring in fine arts, I design all my covers. The Bound by Blood, though, I had a photographer friend who did get a model. And she posed for the cover for Bound by Blood. But all the other ones I get images. And then I tell my graphic designer, with these images, I want this to be, the main image, and then take these images and try to build this. And I give him a whole, descriptive outline of what it is I want in my cover. And he creates it. He's always done amazing work. I don't know what I would do without if he ever decided he didn't want to, do the work anymore. He does amazing covers. But I give him all, I give him all the images, and then I tell him how I want, what I want as an end result with the image. And then he, we go, trial by error, keep, back and forth. But so that was one of the reasons why I left the publishing company, the traditional publishing, because Immortal Kiss, the cover that they chose for Immortal Kiss looked like it was a romance. So when readers were first getting this book, being my first book, readers were upset because they were like, this isn't romance. There's why would, they were just really irritated about the fact that they thought they were buying some kind of paranormal romance where it does have a little bit of romance in it, but not like, what they were expecting. So, and then I changed that cover completely. So nobody would have any kind of, misinterpretation of what that book was about.
No, definitely not. With the blood dripping off the lips, and then the graveyard in the foreground, I guess, with the face behind it. Yeah, I think it's pretty genre specific now.
Yeah.
I think the really neat thing about it, especially with You're Bound by Blood, is that I've had a series, Legends of Lurker, and I just got stock art of a person who dressed up in period garb, and I made her the cover image, and then had the cover designer design it. But anyone else can get her as well. So I have seen her pictured somewhere else with different backgrounds and stuff like that. And when you see that, you go, oh,
yeah.
And, there's so many books out there that most people probably never see her again, but because it's my book, I see her the odd time. I go, oh,
yeah.
So by you doing what you did, like no one's, she might pose for other stuff, but certainly not the way you have her. So she's going to be very unique to you, which is very nice.
He's a great photographer too, because I bought that goblet. I bought that online, and I wanted blood coming out of it and dripping out of the goblet, and he created that. He made all this fake blood, and I came to his house and watched him do the shoot, and he was getting it. I'm like, oh my gosh, the hardwood floor, it was just all over the place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you going to get that off? And he goes, it was some kind of food. I don't know it was some kind of food stuff that he made with the blood, but it looked so real. And it was like dripping off of her hands. It just was, he did a really good job.
He certainly did. I thought he drew it on afterwards. I'm looking at the picture now, thinking, and when I looked at it, I figured, okay, well, he got her to hold the goblet and then drew that stuff on after. But
it was coming out after. It was dripping all over the place, and I felt sorry for her because she's like, oh, she didn't want to get it on her clothes.
Yeah.
So
that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's an amazing kind of thing. I don't think I personally know anybody who has had like a real model or anything like that for their books. So that is especially cool, I think. Did you, you said the traditional company that you were originally going to go with gave you, was going to do a cover that made it look like romance. Of course, we all know how important it is for the cover to look like the genre, even if your blurb is brilliant and, it tells you what the genre is, the cover still has to look like it. So just out of interest, were you able to like talk to them at all? I mean, obviously you left, you decided not to go with them, but just out of interest, did you at any point say like, can't you change this? Why are you doing this? And I wondered what their response
I did. I did talk to them about it because I, when I saw it, I was like, I don't think so. But I didn't really get a choice. And also too, with the editing, I felt like they didn't do a very good job with their editors. And I felt like there was errors after it was published, and it had to be corrected after the fact. So that was a little bit disturbing too.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be very upsetting, I can imagine. So one thing I wanted to bring up was one of my, actually somebody a lot of people know here put on Twitter once is JD Estrada. If you guys, a lot of people in the audience will know him. He writes kind of all genres, and one of his series has vampires in it. It has some paranormal characters. And I don't remember if he said this was in a review or just a reader talking to him, saying, they were really disappointed that there were vampires in the book and that like kind of vampires are over and done with. I was going to ask for your response because like, in my opinion, that can never be really done. There's always readers looking for that. So I was wondering what you thought.
Well, there's always people that are going to say the vampires like out, and but they're never going to know. Everybody's going to love vampires forever. I mean, but I do feel like the vampires like totally changed from, like the early, movies. They were monsters. They looked incredibly scary. And as the years, grew on, they turned into these like, handsome and beautiful like creatures that everybody's like drawn to. And I think we can thank Anne Rice for that. I feel like she was the first one that kind of made vampires more of a, beautiful like looking character. But truly, they are really creepy, scary creatures. I don't think that those kinds of monsters will ever be out of style. But I did have that happen though when I was looking for a publisher, when I decided to publish my books. There was tons of publishers in the paranormal realm, but they were in just gotten so many submissions for vampire books when Twilight exploded in the in the books as well as the movies, and they just didn't want to have anything to do with vampire books anymore. And so that's where I was like, wow, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get published because of all of the fact that most editors and agents didn't want to have anything to do with vampire stories anymore because there was just too many of them out there. But that mentality is gone, and people are still really excited about vampire books, and I don't think they'll ever go out of style. But I didn't want it to be labeled as just a vampire author, so that's when I started doing different kinds of stories to show that I could branch out and do different things. But I truly love the vampires, probably the best. They're great creatures to write about.
Absolutely. And I just want to go back real quick to something you said. You said it used to be that vampires were really like creepy, scary, disturbing creatures. And you mentioned something about I think you mentioned Dracula, and I wasn't sure if you were referring to like Bram Stoker's original Dracula, in which the vampire is terrifying. It's not romanticized at all. It's not what it turned into in later Draculas. So yeah, I really appreciate that comment that you made, that vampires used to be like actually scary.
Yeah,
not so sexy.
No, and I saw this movie while the vampire craze was going on, and they were all these beautiful creatures, and it was called, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called 30 Days of Night. The vampires that are in these people get like, I can't remember the premises of it, but they're stuck in this precinct, and these vampires come out, and none of them are attractive. They're truly creepy looking characters, and true to like what a vampire probably would be like if one was wandering around. It probably wouldn't be some attractive. I mean, if they have no blood and they're dead, then I'm sure they're just not going to be the most attractive looking. And there's another book out there that I read a long time ago that was called They Thirst. I can't remember the author, but it was a vampire book too, and it's really creepy and scary. But mine are kind of like in between. I have one it's totally flawed. He's, more human. He's, more, willing to be nice. And then I have the other side too of a vampire too, where they're just, humans are nothing but food. And, so I try to mix it up so I don't have a bunch of, kind, beautiful creatures in the books. I try to, make sure that there's, an evil one as well.
So I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm admiring your costume you wore. Like I kind of dumped this on you last week when I spoke to you through messengers, telling you that Christy and I are going to dress up because this is the last show before Halloween.
Yes.
And it looks great. And
Thank
I
you.
think we were talking about this off air. That do you actually, before we get any further, do you actually go to book signings and book shows and stuff like that?
I did before COVID.
Right.
And then once COVID happened, I think a lot of, the bookstores in my area, there's a lot of like local bookstores that did, the local authors. They had a really hard time during, what happened, and a lot of them closed. So now everything is pretty much virtual. And the main library that is here too, they do a once a year author event. And this year too, it's going to be virtual. So it's just not the same, you can't go in and like, California is one of the states that's really strict with, the COVID rules. So you can't really, it's not the same when you can't go in and meet, people and, talk with them about your book and sign your book. But, I try to do a lot of stuff online. And we just had a Halloween book party in my group, which turned out, it worked pretty well. It turned out very good. And my new book that is not vampire, but I was able to, sign 2 copies of that book and give that to a couple people. So I try to do, as much as I can, but it's just, in person isn't happening anymore.
No, for sure. The reason I said that is I just think that if you wear your costume, like even what you're wearing now, if you went to maybe not a library, but to maybe a Comic-Con or all these other places that are more theme oriented.
Oh, yeah, Comic-Con.
That would be wonderfully if you dressed up for that.
We have Comic-Con here, but it got canceled because of COVID, because I was going to have a table, for my books and everything, but they canceled COVID and because of COVID. And I have not heard whether they're going to, maybe 2022. I don't know. I haven't even heard anything yet.
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed that things will start opening up in 2022.
Oh my gosh, I hope so too.
Yeah, I love doing them. Doing the book events and stuff like that.
I did a few book events too. There's in some that were in LA because it's close to San Diego within driving. But I because of my basset hounds that are rescues and they have medical conditions, I can't travel as much because then I have to have somebody that's going to come and do the medications, and nobody wants to do that. So I try to find the events that are close where I can drive to.
For sure. And just with the theme that we dressed up, because Halloween is just around the corner, the day after Halloween, All Saints Day, is the beginning of November. And of course, as a writer, we all know that means that's the beginning of Nanowrimo. And I was telling Christy before today that I wasn't going to do it. I never did it. And by November 15th, I was sick of listening authors say NaNoWriMo. So this year, I figured I'm going to participate so that I'm really going to enjoy it and partake in it. So is that something that you ever do? Or
I've never tried it. No, I've never done it. I've kind of just, I've seen a lot of authors posting about it, but I've never, maybe it's just because I've been involved in whenever it was going on, I've been involved in something else. So I've not participated. So, but it's interesting. Definitely something I've, thought about, but the timing is just never seems to work for me.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that was going to happen to me again this year, but I altered my plans so I could do that instead of what I was planning on doing. So, and Christy is now on my friends list, so I'm going to make sure that she gets her 50,000 words in this year.
So yeah, it's I'm not one of these people that can, because I see I can't remember. I was in a Facebook group before I started my Facebook group. I was in another group, and they were, we had these challenges where we had to, how much words we had done. It wasn't that, it was just for that group. And I was like, how in the heck did these people get that many words? I'm sure, I thought I was doing really good with maybe 5,000. And then the one girl posted she'd done 50,000 in a day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how does she do that? But then, I don't know what her situation is, but I have a full-time Monday through Friday job. So I have to do writing on, at night or on the weekends. And then I have my dogs that take a lot of time too. So, but yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how, I mean, I can't fathom how that much words come out of somebody in one 24-hour period.
I think we were in the same group, the science fiction romance writers, something like that, and they used to have a monthly chart where you kept track of how many words you wrote.
The Reader's Lounge or something.
Yes. Yep.
And then that was for the readers, and then they had the other for the authors.
That's right. Yep.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in that anymore, just because I was I'm trying to wean myself off a lot of social media so I can actually write. But actually, I found that productive, because it almost made you want to write just so you can get your words in and post it. So everyone would go, oh, wow. But no, like some people had posted, they wrote 10,000, 20,000 words in a day. I go, really? I'm not going to get that in a week.
One was actually 50,000. She was 50,000. I was like, how?
They got to dictate. I can't see anyone typing that fast, but I'm a hunt and peck typer, so I'm very slow.
Well, I'm one of those types of, when I write too, I don't just write to get it out. I write it, and then I have to look at it to make sure that do I like this? Did I say exactly what I wanted to say? Does it sound right? So I kind of write and edit at the same time. I do, another edit once it's done, but I can't just write something just to get it out. It has to sound halfway decent. So that could be why some of these people get as many words out, because they just, get it all out of their, head, and then they go back and polish it.
Yeah, that's probably true, which brings us to the very natural question that we like to ask most writers. Are you a plotter or a pantser, or in between?
I don't even know what that means. Is that what is that?
So with plotting, if you're a plotter, you write outlines and then you write the book. With a pantser, you just write by the seat of your pants. And then there's people in between who sort of, I'm a pantser too. And there's people in between plantsers who sort of might have like a vague outline or something like that.
No,
and then pantser the rest of the way.
What was the names again?
A plotter
and a
pantser.
I'm not the panther. That
pantser. Yeah, we are all pantsers here.
Pantsers unite.
Yes.
I've never heard of that before. I wonder why I've never heard of that before.
We'll have to create a group or something. Our own group.
Yeah, that was. I'm surprised I haven't heard of something like that with all the the writing groups that I've been in. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't do any outlines.
Me neither.
Everything just is in my head, and and I'll actually be I'll be doing whatever, and then an idea pops up, and I go grab a notebook and write it down, and so I don't forget it. But yeah.
So do you kind of follow your characters? Like maybe you come up with characters, or they come to you, and then you're just writing kind of what they tell you to in a way. Is that how you work?
Yes. Because the doll, actually, when I first started the doll, it was going to be horror. And as I started writing it, the characters were going in a different direction than I had originally thought they would. And then I was like, wow, this doesn't seem like it should be horror anymore. I'm gonna need to change all this and go with what my characters are telling me to do. So.
Definitely. That's definitely, I always find that to be the best way. If I try to control it too much, it just doesn't come out. It will just stop. Like my creativity will just stop if I'm trying to control what my characters are doing. They have the control.
They totally have the control. Yes.
I think it's more exciting that way. That you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what they're going to make you do as far as writing them out of trouble, or and it's almost like watching a movie as you write the book, because they do things totally bizarre that you had no idea they were going to do. So you actually get to see the story unfold in front of your eyes, as opposed to having it all laid out and then just kind of filling in the details. So I enjoy doing that so much better. I generally know the ending. I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah,
I pick the character out and watch
exactly.
them.
I usually know how it's going to start and how it's going to end, but I don't know anything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My endings, I always have an idea of the ending, and for me, it always turns out wrong. So I'm like heading toward that ending, and then I always end up just rewriting what I thought it was going to be. It always ends up pretty different. But yeah, I head toward that goal anyway, just the way you guys do, for sure.
Yeah. I, no one in my family is creative. I'm the only one. Both my sisters are teachers, and then my brother is he went into like pest control. So I'm the only one that kind of in my family. My grandmother was creative. She had her own business and did painting, and she made furs. So I kind of took after her, but nobody in my family. There's no other artists or writers or they're all like very analytical, people that they don't have, they couldn't have come up with something, and they're all like, and like amazed too. They're like, how do you come up with these ideas? How does it happen? And I'm like, I don't know. It just comes into my head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But which is interesting because you're a number cruncher as well for your company. So that you're also very analytical at the same time. So you've got the best of both worlds there. You've both the right and left side of your brain are working.
I don't know so much about that because I would do things. I don't like the people that are in accounting. They are so methodical, and they have like this analytical, process that they go through that I'm like, I am so bored with it. I don't get it. I'm like, why do we even have to do this? Why can't we do a shortcut and go this route? Because it just doesn't make any sense to me. When I worked at a company called Qualcomm, they make a lot of, like phones and things. And they were real big on having like companies come in and do a lot of like testing and meetings. And we had this group come in, and they were, testing to see what career you should be in. And when I did the test, it was like, they said, you should not be in accounting or accounts payable at all. Your brain is creative. You need to be doing something creative. But, and I kind of knew that because I just kind of, I try to do automation to a lot of the processes where I work. So I'm using my creative brain to think of the automation for the system to do the process. So I'm always designing. So I think that's where I really like it. But when it gets to the numbers part, I'm like, oh, it's just boring.
Yeah, I wouldn't enjoy that either. That analytical part, I understand.
Eventually, too, I'm planning on completely going away from the desk day job and doing something more on. I've gotten so much with this group that I have for Facebook, and I do a lot of stuff for authors. So I wanted to maybe do something more along that line, and then focus more on my writing. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe next year it might be where I do something part-time, so I can focus more on what I really like to do in the books and writing, and maybe get back to some painting and my art and things like that.
That's fantastic. Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
So we can't have you on here without you've mentioned their group a couple times now. So I want to go into a little bit more depth about this group, because I find I didn't realize how big it was until last week when I went to finish up our show last Tuesday's Lurking for Legends, and I wanted to do a bit of research on you, and I realized that you were the founding person of the Book Hangout Spot. It's a Facebook group about authors, where authors and readers come together and they discuss books. And I've been in so many different kinds of groups, and there's so much BS in those groups. And I find the Book Hangout Spot is very well run, and it's very on topic. And when I looked at the numbers, I actually had to inbox you to make sure that I actually had the numbers right, because I didn't believe it. And it was 317,000 people were in this Facebook group. That was last week.
333 now.
Before we came on tonight, I went in there again. There's almost 334,000 members in there, and that's incredible. Like that means that's almost 2,500 people a day are joining this group right now.
Yeah, it's insane. I have no idea. I mean, when I first started it, you know, I wanted a place where authors and readers could go and you know, share their love for books, because it's just either focused on an author or it's focused on a reader. It doesn't combine the two, and you can't have one without the other. And so I, you know, started out, it was going really well, and it just steadily kept growing. And then some of the things that I feel like that we do drew in, you know, more participation, more members. And before I knew it, it just had exploded with, you know, tons and tons of members, and we're one of the largest Facebook groups out there. And the original, it was me and on another person. I started it, and I asked her if she would help me because I didn't know what I was doing. And she had been on Facebook for a really long time. And then she ended up leaving when it started getting really big because she didn't have enough time. And then one of the guys that won, we used to do cover wars. And one of the guys that won cover wars, he really wanted to be an admin. So it was me and him. And then it just started getting so big, and Facebook made a change to public groups, which anyone could join. And then it was just like inundated with spam sometimes. So then we brought in a bunch of mods, and then we changed a couple things. And then I just feel like people are just really happy to be able to discuss their books. There's recommendations for books. There's people that say, you know, they're searching for a book. Can I have help? There's people that post their book pictures. It's just a place where book lovers can, you know, share everything about books that, you know, and they find, and the authors love it because a lot of the members that are readers are looking for books, and they'll post what they're looking for, and an author will say, oh, hey, they'll comment and say, I, you know, have a book you might like. I've done it too. So, you know, it just works. And now that we just recently made a change that we did when we had the book party, we had to turn off commenting, and we had to do post approval. So, you know, everything for the authors wasn't being intermingled with the members posting things. So we really liked the post approval because we can weed out all of the, you know, things that shouldn't be coming into the group before the actual members see it. And that, I think, has made a huge difference to the members don't have to like be reporting stuff or messaging us saying, why is this being, you know, what's this about? Why is this in the group? So, but there's really a lot of, you know, people are just loving the group and just having a great time because they can express, you know, everything and anything about books.
With 334,000 members, like that number is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine how you moderate that, especially now that you're, proofreading the post ahead of time. Like, yeah, you must have a lot of people in the background that are helping out.
It was me and my admin and my other I'm an admin, and I have the person that won the cover wars. And then we brought in 6 mods, and 4 of them were doing like a really great job, and 2 of them just weren't really doing anything. So we told them that we were, you know, really happy that, you know, what their work, but we really need somebody to, you know, be full time. And then once those 2 people, we removed them as mods, the rest of the mods, they were like, we have such a good vibe going. We don't want to bring any more mods in because we really work really well together, and we want it. And then I said, you know, that's okay. You know, if you guys feel you want to stay, you know, with just the team as is. But I said, if it keeps growing, you know, we are going to have to probably bring in some other people because you're not going to be able to manage it. And they're like, no, we want to just keep it the team as it is. So they're really a close knit team, which I think helps a lot too. and they each person has, you know, kind of does it at different times too. So, but I really like it because I've been able to go in there to see what is being, you know, prior to the, my biggest thing is that, you know, it's my kind of, I feel responsible. It's my group. I created it. It's my name. A lot of people go look at my author page. I want my reputation to be, you know, something that book lovers, you know, will be appreciative to. So I'm really happy when I can look at the post prior to them coming into the group, because I don't want the members to see some of this stuff, kind of these random weird videos and, you know, somebody trying to sell cash and, you know, these WhatsApp app things. And so I guess the bigger, you know, we didn't have any of that when we were a small group. I guess the bigger your group, the more people are going to try to, you know, get something out of it. So, but I'm in awe of how big and successful the group is. It's, but you know, my other admin and then the mods, you know, I couldn't thank them enough. They do a great job.
That's incredible that 4 mods and 2 admins and you guys are handling that many members. You know,
Yeah.
kudos to you guys for doing that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up, I can't believe our 40 minutes have gone by already. Where can we find your books? If people are looking for your books, where can they go to find them?
I'm on all online retailers, so Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I can't remember. So I use Ingram, and so since I'm self-publishing, I use their self-publishing division, which is in Ingram Spark. But so you upload all of my stuff to them and then they distribute. So I don't have to do anything, but I know that they distribute to about 70 different online retailers. So I couldn't tell you all of them, but I know the biggest one is Barnes and Noble and Amazon. And then it's also on, I want to say, is it like Kobo or Kubu or?
Yeah, there is Kobo in Canada.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's something like that. And then there's other ones too, but I can't remember. There's smaller ones, but I can't remember the names. But it's not Smashwords, because I know that's something that it isn't related to the regular distribution. But and then I think that's doesn't Amazon own something like? Is it Amazon that owns the Smashwords or is that different?
I don't think so. It owns Goodreads, but it doesn't own, I don't believe it owns Smashwords.
What was there was something that the self-publishing before it was Ingram Spark, there was something like Create Source or Create
Space.
Okay. That's what Amazon owned, right? Because okay. Because once
that came before KDP, yeah.
Yeah. So then that closed and
yeah.
So
yeah, that closed just as I was starting to get into it. So I guess I went straight into KDP and yeah. Then and how about a website if people want to check you out? What's your website
it's
address?
LauraDeleobooks.com.
So Laura Daleo books, all one word.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what's next in the Laura Daleo universe?
I am working on a book called Once We Were Witches, where witchcraft has been forbidden. And it's related to a girl who could change everything for all of the witches because she was born into power that she has no idea about. So I've got my graphic designer working on the cover. So I've already pulled all the pictures and gave him what I wanted. And he's probably going to be looking at it like, oh no, because it definitely always give him a huge challenge when I pull all this stuff together, because all the pictures have nothing to do with each other and he has to put them all together into one. So, but I think it'll be, I don't have any doubt he'll be able to create a great picture from it.
And do you have a timeline for that book, roughly?
I like to publish once a year. And when COVID came, I was working on the doll, and that I got furloughed from my job, and then got laid off from my job. So my focus was not on writing. It was like, oh my gosh, I need to find, income, and I didn't want to be on unemployment. So luckily I did find another job, but it was like late in 2021. So I missed a year with COVID. But I didn't have anything published in 2020, which should have been the doll. So the doll got published at the 2021. So hopefully 2022 will be, this book will get published sometime in the 2022.
Awesome. Well, we wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being such a good sport and dressing up with us tonight. We have a little bit of fun with Legends for Lurking. Legends for Lurking. Lurking for Legends, yeah. So, before we leave, I just want to ask Christy, what's new in the Christy Stratosphere?
Not a whole ton, but I do have for Halloween, if you are interested in reading a short horror story, it's not like terrifying, but it is horror. It's called The Subtlety of Terror. And I did publish it a while ago, but it now has a brand new cover. So I only released that a week or two ago, and the new cover is very exciting. So if you go onto Amazon and you look up The Subtlety of Terror, there's only one, and it's mine. So that's only 99 cents. It's very short. If you get it on any other retailer, it is free. I just couldn't get Amazon to make it free. So if you get it on Amazon, thank you for supporting me. You can also get it on my website for the same price, or you can get it free anywhere else. So that is probably my biggest piece of news. And, I'm doing Nanowrimo, as Richard said, and I will be working on my second nanopunk book, which is the second in an unpublished series. So I'm waiting until I have more books written before I start releasing those. So I officially decided that's what I'm going to work on. So that is my news for this week. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, no, I don't have much news. I'm just finishing up Dragon Sect. It's going to publish on or before November 20th. It depends on when my printer can squeeze me in. So my goal is to get it out by November 20th, and whatever the printer can print it, I will then upload it for Amazon and have it out the same day. So, and NaNoWriMo, I was going to just work on a couple old novellas I had before. I just wanted to tighten them up and get them back out there. But with NaNoWriMo, I'm thinking, no, the heck with that. I'm going to write the sequel to Dragon Sect. Is going to be called Windwalker, and it'll probably be another 150,000 word tome, so it'll get me a third of the way there anyway. So, yeah,
you'll be typing away. You'll blow it away. I know it.
Yeah. But if you do it every day, it's about 1,600 to 1,700 words a day, and I have the luxury that I write full time. So even being a slow writer, I should be able to bang that out. I hope. It all depends on what the season does for us, but anyway. Next week's guest is special to me. Louise Spilsbury is one of my original beta readers. So when I finally decided it was time to take the plunge into self-publishing in 2017, late 2017, she was one of the people that put up with reading my awful stories and trying to make them a little bit not as awful. So it's going to be nice talking to Louise. Since that time, Louise has gone ahead and published her own science fiction fantasy book, which I might add is a wonderful read. I've already read it. She's allowed me to read it last year or the year before that, before she actually published it. So it's actually a very great story. It's well written. And for the most of her life, Louise worked in a chemistry lab supervising and analyzing agricultural projects in support for food safety in our province here in Ontario. And after hours, she focused her passions on the 3 R's: reading, writing, she's a horse lover, and writing with a W. Louise has finally realized her dream as a real-life sci-fi fantasy author. She just published or re-released, I guess she had it out a little while ago, but she just re-released the book on Amazon, and I can't wait. So for Laura, Christy, and myself, thank you all for coming in and attending this with us today. We hope that you have an amazing week. Take good care.
Thank you guys very much.